Something very strange just happened, and I wanted to talk about it real quick while I have the time. I just watched a live stream from a fairly unknown YouTuber, someone I'd never watched before, but it involved Mr. Metokur and Sargon of Akkad, and the whole situation seemed very strange. And I also want to talk about some of the points they made during the hangout live stream, whatever you want to call it. Certainly not a debate, because it's very odd. So, as far as I can tell, the live stream is hosted on a channel of a guy named Louis Laveau, or Louis Laveau. I don't know how to fucking pronounce it. I don't really care. Seems to be some kind of centrist skeptic type, very similar to Crowd and T or V or someone like that. Someone who it would appear is some kind of Sargon crony. And what happens is he talks to a channel, a YouTuber by the name of Unsleeved Media, and he gets in contact with Mr. Metokur, or Jim, whatever you want to call him. And he gets him on the stream, and you know, they begin to talk about this centrist individualist movement, and Jim starts to notice a few things. And the first thing he notices that Sargon of Akkad is in the chat watching the live stream. And it becomes pretty apparent that this is a setup, a trap. Sargon of Akkad wants to corner Mr. Metokur on a live stream, and he uses one of his center-left skeptic cronies on YouTube to do it. That's what it seems like. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's exactly what it seems like. It seems like some kind of setup, like some kind of lure Jim into an alley and then try and gank him while he's got his pants down, that kind of thing. And the weird thing is, at one point, Sargon makes a comment, kind of an offhand comment, but I caught it right at first. And he mentions something about, and I'm slightly paraphrasing here, some people have been sending information about your movements to me. And they kind of talk about, oh, well, no, I was just talking about your tweets, Jim. And it's like, it sounded like almost as if Sargon was making a very thinly veiled threat to Mr. Metokur, that he had doxed him or that he'd received information on his real life. Now, if you don't know anything about Mr. Metokur, he's a very famous Gamergate internet troll, essentially. But he's very well versed in the internet culture and has done very well to keep his private life private. It hasn't come out. And it almost seems like Sargon has threatened him that he has his dox, that he has doxed him, and it's very strange that the entire tone of the conversation changes right at that moment. And I believe it's somewhere around the 30-minute mark. And at the end of the live stream in particular, Jim starts talking about Sargon's view on doxing. Is this moral? Is that moral? What's your stance? Where do you take? And he veils it under the whole Kraut and T doxing server thing, but it would seem like he's kind of probing Sargon a little bit. Sargon makes this offhanded comment, you know, it would appear that he's got some information on Jim, and then towards the end he's like, yeah, well, you know, what's your stance on this? It seems like he's kind of preparing for some kind of information or video to come out about him and his private life. That's just what it seems. It could be completely innocuous, but around the 1 hour 7 minute mark, there's a complete tonal shift in the discussion. Jim seems very on the defensive, very meek while he's asking Sargon these questions. I don't know why. It's very odd. It's very silent. It's a very serious discussion all of a sudden. It went from a kind of lighthearted bit of banter back and forth to, okay, please don't shoot me in the head. That kind of shift in tone. It's very strange. So we'll have to keep an eye on that whole situation. But let's talk about the ideological discussion that went on in the video, or in the live stream. Sorry, Mr. Metokur is not a fan of cringy internet activism, and neither am I. I think it's stupid. The difference is that I recognize Sargon's point, that there are those on the left who are very politically active, and they're actively changing laws, especially hate speech laws and gender identity laws in Canada and in Europe, and that there are things going on that need to be fought against. This reduction in overall personal liberty. I get that. I totally get that. But Sargon and the skeptic community, they have this high and mighty egotistical thing where, like, well, I have to champion it because no one else will, and it has to get done. And while I understand that, you don't have to huff your farts so hard, my dude. You don't have to be so hard line. This whole individualist or liberalist movement or whatever you want to call it is so fucking cringy. Like, I personally don't mind doing live events if it's in the name of philosophy and economics and politics. That's fine. But when you bring in like internet culture into it and you're doing all this shit, like it's very cringy. I don't know. There's something very strange about it where it becomes this political circle jerk. You're doing the exact same thing that the leftists do when they hold their political events, IRL, their conventions. You're doing the exact same thing. There's better ways to combat that. On the other hand, what Sargon doesn't seem to understand is that Jim and the whole Mr. Metokur thing, it's not political activism. It's making fun of stupid people. Jim is not an activist. He's not a political commentator. He's not a philosopher. He's not an economist. He never pretended to be, and I don't think he wants to be. He doesn't really want to. He just want to make funny videos about stupid people, and that includes you and the skeptic community. He's going to make fun of you because you're doing stupid shit. So for you to go on and on and on about this rant of, well, you have to do this, and you have to stand up, and you're a coward because you left the movement. It's like, no, he's got a different opinion than you. He doesn't want to be involved in the same way you are. You should respect his opinion and not be so antagonistic towards him. I mean, calling someone a coward, that's a pretty big accusation. I understand why Internet Aristocrat had to go away. I understand that because the movement was turning to shit. There were too many e-celeb shills who were joining the movement just to make money off of YouTube, and that's fucking garbage, and that's what the skeptic community has turned into. All of these dumb shit 20-something nerds who want to make money off people, by sounding smart. It's ridiculous. That's not what Jim does. That's not what he believes in. He just wants to make funny videos about stupid people. He's not an activist. Stop trying to make him one. Just let him do his thing. He's still helping. Well, I say helping, but he's still furthering the cause of being against this type of leftist stupidity. He's not stupid, like you said. He is intelligent. He's just not. He's not you. He doesn't think like you. He doesn't act like you. He doesn't have the same interests as you. Stop trying to make him this Kim Jong-un, glorious leader type that you think he is. He just wants to be a guy that makes funny videos about stupid people. And that's what we all love about his content. And it's not so serious. And there's a time for seriousness. And this is my response to Jim, that there is a time for seriousness, and it's getting about that time. And there's a time for making funny videos about stupid people. If you don't want to be a part of the serious movement, I totally respect your decision. That's fine. And also, there's a good way to go about the seriousness and not this cringy shit that Sargon and the skeptic community are doing. But anyway, there's a time for seriousness. The time it's getting close because people who are ideologically opposed to people like me have already made moves to change our way of life. They have actively moved into the government to pass laws. They are actively changing the culture. They are predominant right now in the media, in academia. It's time to do something about that. But, Sargon, this is not the way to go about it. Not to start this limp-wristed leftist or center-left movement of individualists or liberalists. It's so fucking cringy. And I can't wait to watch Jim's video about it. It's going to be fucking great. But let's keep our eyes open and see where this goes. It's a very, very strange live stream, and I think things are going to start changing. I think that Sargon is afraid of losing his user base like Kraut did, and there's a change in the breeze. There's a storm of brewing somewhere out there, so we're going to keep our eyes open. Anyway, thanks for listening.